Thank you very much. To the friends, the Polar family, to the clients of the clinic, thank you for being with us today. We're honored to have you. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. As Mark mentioned, I wanted to share with you a little bit about what it is that the Veterans Benefits Clinic does for veterans and for students as well. I first came to the clinic, as Mark mentioned, really out of a sense of duty. I was very fortunate in my 4 years in active duty that I was able to then take advantage of the post-9/11 GI Bill. So as a recipient of veterans benefits, it's especially heartwarming to be able to give back to veterans who didn't have nearly the advantages that I did as I was leaving the service. What the clinic does is helps clients in two main areas, either with benefits administered by the Veterans Administration, the veterans benefits essentially that you hear about from the VA, and also the disability retirement benefits that are administered by the Department of Defense, acting through each of the military departments and their physical evaluation boards. In each of these cases, the crux of the legal argument that we have to make is establishing a link between the veteran's service, a current disability, and then providing medical evidence of what they call a nexus in between. Because it's medical evidence, it tends to be very costly and very difficult for the veteran to obtain. And that's where the Veterans Benefits Clinic has been able to leverage a unique partnership with Virginia Commonwealth University. Dr. Letty Flores is here today. She runs VCU's Center for Psychological Services and Development that is able to provide treatment, evaluation, and evidence for our clients who are struggling with the signature injuries of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, namely traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. So Dr. Flores, thank you and all of your team for what you do for the veterans and for the clinic. What that also speaks to is a holistic treatment goal for our clients. When they come in, Stacey Ray and Mark decided early on that we're not simply going to solve individual legal problems. We're going to provide services to the veteran who may not even acknowledge that they need some additional care beyond the immediate legal problem that brought them into the clinic. The partnership we have with VCU enables us to do that and to fulfill the entire debt that we owe to our veterans today. So it really is unique and a pleasure to be a part of. As I mentioned, because of the nature of the medical evidence, cost tends to be a factor, unfortunately. Because of the partnership we have with VCU, we're able to provide cut rate services to our clients. Nevertheless, we appreciate all the support that the Veterans Benefits Clinic has gotten. It's a very attractive option, I think, for our supporters because there's a visible and immediate impact. Even a modest donation by a donor standards can make the difference for a client in terms of the success of their claim. Wonderful opportunity, and we certainly appreciate all the support we've received so far. Thank you. Let me give you an illustration of what it is that we do and how that impact shows up in a day-to-day basis. Earlier this summer, we received a referral from the VA Medical Center in Hampton. There was a former Marine who was combat wounded in Iraq. His social worker had heard of Professor Sim Cox. He didn't really understand the nature of the legal problem, but he said, Stacey Ray's a miracle worker. We're going to send you to Stacey Ray. Turns out that the claim was a little bit different than the ones we usually dealt with. This client had been rated 100% disabled by the VA, but at the same time, the Department of Defense was only assigning him a 10% rating. What that meant in terms of pay was that he would not be eligible with that 10% rating for disability retirement. He was thus facing the prospect of losing his access to health insurance for him and for his family. That disconnect, 10%, 100% didn't square. Stacey Ray asked him to send over some initial paperwork so we could start looking at it. The very first page to come off the fax machine was a pretty routine administrative separation document. But when I pulled it off the fax machine, I found out he was a fellow Marine. He had served with me in 8th Marines. That page was signed by the executive officer of the regiment, who was the man who taught me, if you ever have the opportunity to help a Marine, you do it. So I saw that, and I went to Stacey Ray's office. I said, hey, this is a sign. We've got to take care of this guy. Let's do it. She said, okay, you've got it. She partnered me with Crystal Waldron, who's a 3L, who's been in the clinic for a year and a half. And between the two of us, we pulled 4 years' worth of documentation on this Marine. We pulled service records, medical records, including one video clip that the insurgents had made when they bombed his Humvee in Iraq outside of Fallujah. They had filmed that and posted it on the internet. And I mention that for the benefit of the IT staff who may wonder why Crystal and I were surfing jihadist websites this summer. There was a point. It was helpful. In the final analysis, we were able to put together the legal argument. We sent him to VCU. Dr. Flores and her team were able to work with him. And we provided new medical evidence to say 10% is absolutely unacceptable. When the physical evaluation board changed their mind, granted him medical retirement benefits, the change in the client's face was almost immediate. When he came in to see us next, you could sense the relief. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that a few weeks after we finished with his claim on that element, his wife gave birth to their baby girl. She was then eligible for all the medical retirement benefits that came with his retirement. Truly a success story. Obviously, the client was delighted. Crystal and I were delighted because we had the chance to see, I think in a very unusual way, how quickly and how effectively we can bring the law to bear to help people's problems. Seeing that as a rising 2L or a rising 3L was unique and a tremendous boost for morale. It reminded, I know that both of us rekindled that sense of optimism and idealism that brought us to law school in the first place. On a personal level, I appreciate what the clinic does even more. Marines are not ones to ask for help, even when we need it. We tend to suck it up and march on. It is a great source of strength and comfort to know that people like Mark and Stacy Ray are here when and if I needed that help, that they would be there to support me. Thank you so much. Senator Puller, thank you so much, ma'am, for coming today. Your father-in-law, as the dean mentioned, Lieutenant General Chesty Puller, is a legend in the Marine Corps. There's an old tradition, Marines at boot camp, when they go to bed at night, they send out a toast to Chesty, and it's "Good night, Chesty," wherever you are. I'm confident Chesty would be proud today. He can rest easy knowing that people like Stacy Ray Simcox and Mark Matthews are looking after his Marines, soldiers, airmen, sailors, and Coast Guardsmen that serve alongside them. I know Mark and Stacy Ray don't like to be the center of attention, but I'm very confident that none of us would be here today were it not for these two. Your talents are matched only by your humility, so let me just say thank you. Thank you. As a law student, thank you for teaching me the craft of law. As a budding citizen lawyer, I want to thank you for showing me the impact of the law as a force for justice. And finally, as a veteran, I want to thank you for showing me the humanity of the law. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Jeff, for those kind words, and thanks for relating that story about that Marine, that fellow Marine of yours that you took such good care of, because I think it exemplifies the theory that if you ever want to slay a dragon, tell a law student that there's a legal issue inside of it. Okay?